Action. Hello, my name is Matthew Amouyal. I am here with a Mr.
Lorenzo Jackson. I was a member of the jury trial that took place a few years back.
On the Agostini case.
Yes.
The People versus Agostini. I thank you so much for your time today. I would like to ask you just a few short, simple questions as to, the procedures, what was happening at that point, your overall thoughts on these proceedings, just a little bit of a background on what was going on. This is a very serious case that took place in 2007, finalized between 2009. This is again of significance, but this is not for me to so much speak about. My first question to you is going to be, what are your feelings on the overall case and the proceedings, the procedure from start to finish?
I kind of felt that once the jury was selected and we went into the room where we had to go to, or let's talk about the things that were presented in the courtroom, I felt that there were certain people whose minds were made up already, and from that point on, their thing was just basically trying to persuade the rest of us to side with them.
And overall, though, I mean, from start to finish, did you feel that that was a fair and unbiased case, a balanced case?
No, not at all. Not at all, from start to finish. There were too many little things going on that needed more attention that didn't get it.
Could you elaborate on that one?
Well, it would...
Like for an instance?
Well, when we would be in the jury room talking about things, sometimes people would come in and out, didn't necessarily say anything to us, but this type of thing was going on. I can remember one time we asked him to go to the bathroom. I just remember this one. And as I came out of the room where everyone else was, there were people back there in that area. As I went to go into the room, there were a men's room and ladies' room, or it was one that both could use. You just had to slide this little thing and it would let you know who was in there. But again, there were people out in that area that really shouldn't have been, but I was not the person to say anything about that.
So there was rather inappropriate contact between, the jury and, other people from within this courtroom numerous times, not just during deliberations, but it seemingly throughout this trial, correct?
Yes.
And you felt this was a little bit inappropriate?
For sure.
Well, what about the opening statement by the DA, stating instead of him representing the state of New York, that he was on representation for the Print-Up family? Do you feel that was appropriate, or would perhaps levy bias?
It was pretty biased because, again, it's supposed to be the state of New York, not just one person or family. And the way it all ended up was very biased.
Now, during the deliberation time, I understanding that there were, a hung jury for quite a few days. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, during that time period, we're discussing various elements of what we had heard that took place. And there was one person in particular, a graduate of Penn State University, who once we had came into the room to start talking about these things, I believe his mind was already made up, and then his thing was to just get everyone else to side with him real quick. But as we listened to things, myself and there were a couple of other people who more or less weren't really siding with him, didn't really look at things the way he was pushing them out. He was not the jury foreman or anything. He was just like any of us, a person on the jury. But for whatever reason, he seemed to want to take charge of things and allow the other people, well, let's let him. There was another guy, I think he was from Rensselaer, and I believe the fact that both of them were engineers more or less made them click together about things. And so together, in a way, they more or less again, tried to talk about things, make it seem as if for sure this guy did the murder.
So again, you know, my third question was, you know, did you feel that these proceedings were fair and balanced or unbiased, and if not, or if so, why?
I don't feel they were fair. I mean, because again, this guy was trying to persuade people and wasn't really allowing too many people to get their own opinions out on things. And when people start getting them out, you kind of felt and heard that there were maybe half of them that didn't really side with him, but as time went on, they started jumping on their bandwagon. And there were little things that were presented that more or less made people start doing those type of things, along with the fact that this Penn State guy now with his other engineer from Rensselaer backing him up on pushing everyone to feel that this guy was guilty without even talking about too much.
I see.
Because that was just based on the information we had heard while we were out in the courtroom.
Well, speaking about information that was heard out in the courtroom as opposed to maybe perhaps outside of the courtroom, my understanding was that there was a female juror who had overheard things during the common area time where, you know, apparently the jurors and had access to everybody else. That she had heard things, and after that she had raised her hand twice and asked the judge to be excused, feeling she couldn't be impartial. Were those things discussed at great length in between the jury members? Were they brought in and discussed at some level? I mean, were there any feelings? Like, what were the feelings that were after that? I mean...
Well, we were all of us that were in the room, we didn't know exactly who was going to end up being picked to be on the actual jury. We just knew that we all had to listen to the information. And no one particularly said anything to me about not necessarily wanting to be on it. You know, and so we were basically all back there listening to everything, and there could have been a couple of people who kind of felt that way, especially, you know, after people coming in and out of the room, and with them going to use the bathroom, you know, because any of us had to use the bathroom, we had to go outside the room, and there's no telling who was out there. So with those type of things going on, I can see how some people may have wanted to not have part of it.
Understandable. And when it comes down to that, whether it's we're sticking with the jury. I mean, with this pressuring so much the situation, the jury was hung for 3 days. And do you feel that the Allen charge also from the judge stating I need this decision by 11, that was a highly motivating factor for it to finally say, okay, we just have to do this and get them done? And
that was a very big motivating factor to get this thing over with. Because again, we had been there like 3 days listening to testimony, talking about what we had been hearing, and people were finally taking their sides, giving them information as to why. And then of course we'd go back out to the court, and it was like a 9 to 3, then it was a 10 to 2, then 11 to 1, and then it was 11 to 1 for a couple of days, simply because I was at 1. I just did not feel as if the information that I was hearing was enough to really say this guy had murdered this person.
So basically there was a feeling, though, of bias and prejudice, not only within the jury room but within the courtroom throughout the whole trial.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And let me ask you, because this Laverne Doctor character, one of the people that you had come back and forth into these rooms with you and the other jurors, beyond that, he had stated, off the record, but it was actually on the record, taken down by the stenographer. He claims that he was the lead detective and the only detective now on this case. Now, from further investigation, we found that he is of the same nation as the decedent, and he was the only one handling the evidence. And we're going to speak next to that evidence problem, but before even that, would you have felt comfortable you know, if whether it was for you or your son, or just knowing that for this person, Mr. Agostini, that an Onondaga Nation member was handling all of that evidence?
No, no way.
Do you feel it was appropriate?
No. I mean, there's no way. At that time, I don't think anyone mentioned to us the fact that this person was also a member of that nation and representing the Native Americans who were presenting this whole case. If that type of information had been known, I think things might have gone a different way.